Welcome to Heroes and Droids, your guide to movies and TV about superheroes, sci-fi, Disney, and action. From Marvel to DC, from Star Wars to Star Trek, from James Bond to the Fast and the Furious 2021, all of that. Just saying. We will review theatrical films and streaming delights you care about most. This week we are reviewing Project Power, which debuted on Netflix. Eventually we'll get back to the theaters. It might not be this year, but eventually. I mean, they're talking about it. Do you think, before we get into the review, do you think we'll make it to the theaters?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I know that for a fact you have other films right now that will be playing at, they'll be playing at drive-ins, basically. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know Unhinged is playing near us in North Carolina, so I'm sure there'll be other films. They probably will find some way to. That's become the new norm. Is like, yeah, they're gonna screen in theaters outside.
Inside, outside.
Yeah.
Disney has said, come hell or high water, New Mutants is coming out on the 28th.
Yep, the 28th, it'll be out, and Unhinged is out this coming weekend, and so is Peninsula. Now, the AMC in Orlando is opening up there at Disney. Was it Disney Springs now, Christopher?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we'll make it. I don't know. Here in North Carolina, it's a no-go for some time. What about you up in Virginia?
I'm hearing mixed messages.
Some
people are saying, oh yeah, they're going to open up the same time Florida does, and other people are saying, no, there's no plans to open it up.
Why
I think
is Florida opening up.
Is the Alamo Draft House open in Winchester?
I don't live close enough to that, unfortunately, so I have no idea.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I only have an AMC near me.
AMC. Well, until then, we're reviewing things that show up on streaming and on demand, and we're doing Project Power. But let me introduce the crew. I'm getting ahead of myself. Joining me tonight is Christopher G. Moore, award-winning filmmaker.
Woo, 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 woo. I don't need power pills. I'm an award-winning filmmaker.
You're about to drop some rhymes.
I know.
There is a video of me when I rapped when I was in high school, but I don't think I'll. Well, there's a rumor we may do some kind of rap thing for Backward Creep, but hopefully that will never happen. But you never know. My rap career may come back. I won't be able to have such a rap flow like the young lady in this film that we're about to talk about, but. Yeah, we'll leave the rap into the experts.
Yes. Well, she does a good job. All right. Also,
a lot of her rhymes were actually written by a rapper named Chica.
Okay. All right. Also joining us is Chris Slattery, the Slattman. Are you ready to talk about Project Power?
I'm ready to think about what power I'd get if I popped that pill.
Oh, what? 5 minutes. 5 minutes. What would your power be?
Oh, I know what I'd like, but I don't know. I'd probably turn into some blob and just roll onto people.
Oh my gosh.
That's not what I want, but that knowing my luck.
Oh yeah. I'd turn into a blob. I'd be a snail. A slug even. Is that an animal? I mean, does that have to be
you'd be like the scene, the DMV scene from Zootopia. Ha.
Maybe. Oh, it gets his jabs in. All right. Well, what we do here is review the movie. We give our first impressions, and we talk about the movie a little bit, and then we wrap it up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. So let's dive into this. All right, Slattman, you and your jokes. Your jokes are. Why don't you give us your first impression of Project Power?
So Project Power does not have a lot to say, in my opinion. But that is not a bad thing. But at the same time, it is what I like to call very average.
Very average.
It is not bad, but it is not great. It is the perfect, like, it honestly, it really is like a perfect summer movie. It's good enough to bring in what I would consider good enough to bring in some money, but not good enough for like an Oscar or any awards or anything like that. It has a lot of really fun action moments. It has good enough characters. It has good enough writing. It has a compelling enough story to keep you invested, but nothing screams great. It's not a movie that I am upset that I watched, but it's definitely not a movie that I'm gonna go watch again.
I like that. I think that's actually pretty on the point. All right, well, let's find out what Christopher G. Moore thought. What is your first impression of Project Powers, sir?
AKA if people had Pokemon powers.
Pokemon powers.
Project Pokemon Power or Pokemon Project.
Pokemon.
Which we were talking right before we were recorded. It supposedly it gives you powers of different animals, like the ability to move like a snake or ability to turn into fire. And it just felt like, I felt like I choose you, Pikachu, you know. Actually, one of them almost has a like a Pikachu power, to be fair. But yeah, it's you know what, I think in the very beginning of the film, where you follow see, what is his name? You follow Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, Frank. I was like, oh, I'm not sure about this. Cause I don't know, just, well, we meet the main character, the Robin character, and then we run into Joseph Gordon-Levitt. But something about it just felt kind of, he felt kind of out of place, I guess, you know.
I know exactly what you mean.
And then like, it's almost like he's like every stereotypical like movie cop. He's wearing like a jersey instead of like, you know, a normal police. I mean, I guess he's undercover cop, but he's, you know, that's old school 80s cop. I think was it Running Scared with Billy Crystal? I think Billy Crystal might have been wearing that. But as it went along and you got to learn more from the characters and stuff, and you learn from like Jamie Foxx and a lot of the situations, it became more interesting. I think a lot of the special effects are really good in this. I mean, just in my opinion. And it is a very interesting story. It's almost like if you could put X-Men into a capsule and you could allow them to use powers for like 5 minutes. And although if you overuse it, you start like, you could cause certain problems to your body. Although the one evil guy, I kept getting creeped out by his like little flabby, crinkly neck thingy.
Piggy,
I was like,
Piggy.
I was like, wear a sash or something around your neck, or
Turtleneck.
wear a turtleneck or something. Just wear something, cover that neck. Don't keep that open skin. But maybe that's just part of his ambiance. But yeah, I thought as it got into it, I actually got into it a little bit more. It got more interesting. I mean, I really love the character of Robin. I think that the young actress who plays that part, I think she does a great job. And it's not one of those things where you stick some character into it, and you know, like when you have movies and they give them some kind of thing and they're not able to pull it off. But I mean, the raps that she's given to by that rapper Chica, however you pronounce her name, really works for some of the scenes. And I think there's some really, and you also have like an anti-hero with the Jamie Foxx character who doesn't really care who he goes through or who he hurts to sort of get to, you know, trying to find his daughter throughout the film. So I thought it had some really good action scenes. I mean, I think the scene that really stood out to me that I really love, there's a scene where they go to this high stakes type, high class thing where he's showing off the thing to all these people who are going to want to pay for these pills. And they put this girl in this chamber, and she becomes Elsa from Frozen, which they even make a Frozen joke in there.
I missed it.
and that, you know, the power pill, let it go. And there's this whole action scene where you see it from her point of view inside of the chamber, and that I think is one of the coolest things I've seen in a while. And regardless of what you say about the rest of the film, that one scene where you see all these action beats happening as the camera just basically pans, and you also see the situation involving her and stuff. But yeah, and then it goes off. Yeah, some of the powers and stuff go off into Crazyville, and it almost turned into a video game for a little bit there. But I don't know. I actually enjoyed it. I think it got better as it went along. I got a little bit more invested in the characters once you got more into it. I even got a little bit teary-eyed at the very end, even though I kind of knew where it was going because they kind of hint at certain things. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, it's I think it's definitely a good film to put on Netflix as opposed to theaters. I'm not sure if it really would have hit its stride in theaters, but I think it's definitely, if you have a Netflix subscription, I think it's worth seeing for some of the really cool action scenes, especially, some of the fight scenes against the people with powers, which is, it's basically like action scenes from like an X-Men type thing, but they just lose their powers in 5 minutes. So, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I mean, and then but I think also it's weird because there's just like weird people that pop up, like YouTuber Casey Neistat shows up, the well-known YouTuber, and then Machine Gun Kelly plays one of the characters, Newt, who's like hooking up with Megan Fox right now. So that you have the white rapper and Casey Neistat and all these, just popping up in the middle of this film. But I was like, what? It actually took me out of the film those two times. Like, what are these goobers doing in the film? I was like, somebody's trying to maximize their audience. It's like, we just need to cover all the bases, so let's get all these from different niches and throw them into one movie. We'll get the Jamie Foxx fans, the Joseph Gordon-Levitt fans, we'll get the fans who like rap, we'll get the fans who like YouTube, we'll get the fans who like tall TikTok, goofy rappers, and throw them all in this bouillabaisse, and everybody will enjoy it. But yeah,
almost worked.
Well, it almost worked. I mean, it's not a perfect film, but I think it's watchable, and I think it's much more. It's a much better film to see something they throw on like Sci-Fi Channel or something. I think it's a better action film than some films I've seen in theaters, because I think it's got some really good special effects for it to be a Netflix movie. So I enjoyed it. I mean, it has its flaws, it has its issues, it has its logical, weaknesses, but for the most part, I think it's enjoyable for some of the action stuff and some of the special effects.
Yeah. All right. So before we continue on, let's just talk about the movie and the cast and the people behind it. So this is Project Power, came out on Netflix August 14th, this past Friday, as we're recording this. It's directed by Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman. Now, Christopher, you were mentioning this before the show. They directed a couple of pictures that I think a lot of people may have seen. You want to mention
they directed one of the highest grossing opening weekends for franchise or horror film. Basically, they directed the third and fourth of the Paranormal Activity films.
Yes, they did.
They also they did a documentary that they've first gotten well known for called Catfish. Mm-hmm. It later turned into the MTV series. So yeah, I mean they're actually a duo that seems to work really well together, and you can see that they definitely have some ability to shoot some action stuff.
Yeah, I think they've definitely shown that they have grown in their ability to direct with this film. All right, it's written by Mattson, Tomlin. The cast includes Jamie Foxx, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Dominic Fishback, Rodrigo Santoro as Biggie. That's the guy you don't like with the neck thing, but that gets explained. Courtney B. Vance playing a cop, of course. Amy Landecker and Machine Gun Kelly. Of course, it's Colson Baker is what he's credited at, but yeah, we know the deal. All right, when Appeal gives its users unpredictable superpowers for 5 minutes, hits the streets in New Orleans, a teenage dealer and a local cop must team with an ex-soldier to take down the group responsible for its creation. That oversimplifies what we're doing here. I thought that the motivation for Jamie Foxx's character and the history, I thought really helped ground this movie and keep it from just being, wacky and out there. I liked his character, the way his character was involved a little bit more than Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character. Although I liked him in this, and I liked his superpower because he's the one that uses it like a superhero, right? Everybody else is almost like villains. I also liked the idea that they're basically doing clinical trials by taking this drug and giving it to dealers to go sell so they can find out how it acts and how it reacts. And they go from, city to city, and they just happen to be in New Orleans here. I found that quite interesting. So I guess what I'm saying is I think the story behind this is really fascinating. And then they don't do as much with it as the premise promises. That seems to be by choice. So they could focus on our three characters and keep things kind of in budget. It felt like budgetary concerns, which makes sense. And they get the most out of, the confinement of it. We get a number of people and see their powers. Not as many as we would like, though. But we get to see like this invisible dude. That's a real fun chase. And
I was like, I would hate to have that power because you just have to run nude everywhere. And then they're just going to have to see you flopping around with
Yep.
I could have done without that power.
I thought the reveal of his power was really well done, though.
Yes. And then, of course, it's Machine Gun Kelly's character, bursts into flame. Although I don't understand what animal bursts into flame. I think, Slattman, you said it was a phoenix, and, I'll go with that. Even though that's not a real thing.
Although I think we were joking. I was like, I would hate to have the sloth power, have some really, really shitty, or like the power to like smell like crap, or just some of those
bug.
Some of those weird like animal or insect powers. Because I could just see. I mean, of course, you had that one person that just they made us like the very beginning, like it can make you blow up, and you found out, it might make you blow up. But I think that would be, for me, it'd be kind of funny if you did like a side project power where you see the really crappy powers that people have, just like or like a blowfish where you just make your neck blows out, or like one of these frogs. I mean, or you can get gnats with your tongue. I mean, what? I don't know. There's got to be some crappy powers that I didn't cover in this that would make the film maybe more entertaining, but more stupid.
Well, I'm sure they already exist in the X-Men universe.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Or Superman has it.
Yeah.
Like,
or every villain Spider-Man ever faced. But I mean, so it had a lot going for it, and I thought the cast did well. Even our supporting cast, Rodrigo Santoro is you probably recognize him from Westworld. He and maybe Lost if you go back that far. He chews up the scenery as the bad guy.
He turns into video game villain.
He does, and it's hilarious.
I felt like I was walked into like a Harry Potter movie for a second there, because it was almost like, what is his power, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde?
Hey, well, I think he was you were saying a frog. I think that's what it was. He was like,
or blowfish, maybe. But I think he got like
a big critter. So who knows?
Yeah,
I think they're saying it was. I think they didn't take it quite as literal as they said it was in the movie, because it just doesn't make sense. Even our Jamie Foxx character, I was like, what exactly is that?
That's Pikachu.
It's Pikachu. now that
he has Pikachu power.
That would have been funny if he turned into the sloth.
They should have called this movie Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
What about Frozen Girl? What's her animal?
The Elsa flower.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But you just go with it. Yeah, I think that's kind of
let it go with it.
Oh, you're so cool, Brewster. I don't know. So I had a good time with it. I thought some of the chases were fun. The characters were interesting to go up against. It felt a little predictable, but not horribly so. So I think Chris, both Chris and Slattman are right. It's a lot. It's fun. It's a perfect Netflix film. It doesn't quite achieve the potential that it promises, so that makes it kind of adequate instead of remarkable. And this movie could have been or should have been remarkable, right? It had all the ingredients to be so. I would say that Dominic Fishback is really a standout here. I really liked her. I thought as Robin that she had just enough, of that spunk and back talk, and then also caring. She looked up to Jamie Foxx, and she, it was just or Jamie Foxx's character, Frank, or Art.
She's the one that goes through the most level of emotions in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just shows, for her to be so young, to be the youngest person in the cast, I think she's the one stand out. I think, sadly, it's not sadly, but Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, they just play different versions of like the gruff action guy.
They do. Literally.
You know what I mean? It's like the Bruce Willis Die Hard, problem, to where you're just going, I've always got smart things to say every time I do something. And you don't really see that level of emotion as she does. She's more of a full-fledged character than they are. They're more two-dimensional action.
Yeah,
characters.
They're supporting her. Yeah, they were also too much alike.
Yeah. I guess they were trying to show that they're both sides of a different coin. Almost like John Woo films where they actually have the villain and the hero. They're sort of like the similar. But yeah, I think. Granted, I think of course, the Jamie Foxx character is a little bit more violent. Because I think in the beginning I was like, is this guy a cop? Just I was like, with everything going on with cops and stuff, I'm not sure if I really feel comfortable with this cop beating up people. But it's like, oh no, he's just some guy who's on a vendetta, and so okay, that's okay. He could beat as many people up as he wants because he's trying to search for his daughter.
I thought that Jamie Foxx fit that type of character a little bit better than Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I don't know. I didn't really believe in his performance. It felt a little bit more like stereotypical or cashed in. Not really cashed in, but it didn't really feel like he was giving it his all, where I feel like Jamie Foxx was like cast perfectly for that for the role he was put in.
Yeah, he certainly brought a lot more
oomph.
Oomph to it. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. A lot more personality.
Gordon-Levitt just felt like he walked off an 80s action film. He just seems more of a stereotype of those specific action films, or 90s action films for that matter. Very Bad Boys type. And Jamie Foxx, Die Hard, or but I think more just like Bad Boys type stuff, and he felt a little bit out of sorts, but I think Jamie Foxx, gave a little bit more to his character, mainly because it's more interesting character than the stereotypical,
You think the motivations had anything to do with it?
Well, I think the motivations, you don't really see, other than Joseph Gordon-Levitt being that kind of character, is like, Captain, we need to do something about this city. It just felt like I almost felt like Courtney Vance was going to pull that sort of Bad Boys, start yelling at him and take Pepto-Bismol after it because he's upsetting him so much, but it didn't even go to that level. I felt like Gordon-Levitt was a little bit so understated, even though other than him trying to be almost like a drug user who's using these powers to catch people with powers, there wasn't really as much. I really would have loved there to be some kind of secondary motivation to that.
It needed it.
Maybe he had a family member that was killed by this, or maybe his partner was killed. I think that would have given a little bit more substance to his character, but otherwise he was just sort of the normal renegade or rebellious cop that we've seen in about every 90s and 80s action film.
Yeah, I thought it felt like he just walked right off the set of Dark Knight Rises right into this. Yeah, it was almost the same character.
Well, yeah. Maybe he's Robin. Maybe that's how he develops his. That's why he can run out with a little skimpy bikini bottoms with Batman because he's bulletproof.
Yes.
We figured out a tie-in.
But you also know that was his best scene in this movie, is where he jumps out of the bathroom with just the
that scene cracked me up.
That actually worked. It needed more of that sense of humor to his character.
I think that was definitely that's probably the more fun part of that, especially with that girl's mom's like, who the hell are you?
And she just went with it, man. He owned it after a while, man. It was
and at the very end, she was just like, why the hell do you need my phone?
Oh man. So there was elements that really clicked. It just wasn't enough. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's give our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. But before we do, if you like what you're seeing, please hit the subscribe button down below, hit the like button or the dislike if you that's okay too. And hit well, we don't encourage it.
Use your special power.
There you go.
And hit the subscribe button and like button. Yes.
There you go. And hit the bell too so you can get notified.
Otherwise, you're a villain. You
can
swell up.
See, there's your motivation.
Yeah.
Right? From
you'll turn into a sloth.
From award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. Please leave comments down below. All right, let's do this. Final thoughts, our score, and favorite scene. Slattman, you're up first.
This is not a bad movie, but it's not a great movie. It's worth watching, but it's not worth rewatching. It's got just enough. It's got just enough to pull you in. Although it really does take a little bit. Probably about, I would say, 15, 20-ish minutes to really hook you in. At least it did for me. And
that's fair.
Once it gets going, it's a fun time. But there are some flaws with the story. There are some characters that don't really make a lot of sense, but you just got to roll with it and you'll have a decent time with it. This is what my roommate in college liked to call just a movie.
A movie.
It's just a movie. It's not a great movie. It's not a bad movie. It's just a movie. And with that, I'm going to give it a score of 3 out of 5. It is very average, but it is not bad. And my favorite scene is actually probably the Machine Gun Kelly scene with where Jamie Foxx is fighting him and he was like on fire. And I thought there were some really cool moments in that scene that like were just very unique for an action scene, like being like dousing the coat with water to keep it from catching on fire, like things like that, and just having a burning man chasing you through an apartment building like that. That's the scene that hooked me, and that's the scene that I remember the most of the entire movie.
Yeah.
And one last thing, do any of you guys know if this is based on like a graphic novel or a comic or anything like that? I couldn't find anything about it, because I really think that this it's almost perfect for that medium.
It kind of is. If it wasn't so much like the X-Men. I know that this was one of those sought after scripts and bidding wars, but I'm not aware that it's based off of anything like an existing property. It's but it certainly wears all its influences on its sleeve. With your scene, Slattman, I like when he's walking down the hallway and you see his feet burning into the floor. I thought that was really cool. All right, Christopher G. Moore, what's your final thoughts, your score, and favorite scene?
Yeah, I as the film started out, I was like, oh gosh, I'm not sure, because I even looked at like the time of it, and it's like it's close to 2 hours. Like, oh, I'm not sure if I could take 2 hours of this. But as it goes into it, goes into the story, and you meet the characters, I think you get a little bit more invested in it, and I think it's got some really great special effects. I think you can definitely, that's where a lot of the money went, is the special effects budget. And so, but yeah, I think I think that's the one. I think what you guys said, it does feel like it came from a graphic novel or a comic book. Mattson Tomlin, I think, wrote it, so you can definitely see that he's influenced by a lot of the superhero stories that are out there. But then it takes it into a different direction to where it's more, if you came across, if the government like tested people and filling people with like radiation, all these different things, and somehow you were able to put that in pill form to where you could transform people and possibly use it for like military or whatever. I could see people doing that. So I think it's a very interesting thing. Although, again, with them sort of like the whole point of making it about almost like animal powers, I just felt like this is more like them trying to explain how Pokemon works or something, if you can give those powers to humans, which actually I find very entertaining. Just I kept expecting one of the characters to go Pikachu. But yeah, I think it's I think other than maybe Joseph Gordon-Levitt feeling a little bit miscast, I think Jamie Foxx definitely gives his all. I think Dominique Fishback is the standout of the film. It makes me kind of interested to see, and evidently she's been into a few other things as well. So it's not like this is her first rodeo, because she was The Night Comes On, The Hate You Give, and The Deuce. So I'd love to see her in other stuff. But yeah, I think it's an entertaining film that has a lot of different weird pop-up characters from time to time, which is it's almost like, oh, I know this person, and they just throw them in there. But overall, I think it's worth it for the special effects. There's some really parts of it feel very video gamey, almost like you're playing a video game and you have to go against a specific boss in this level, but in a good way. So yeah, I think it's enjoyable. I think it's definitely worth watching. I think if it was in theaters, it might be up in the air, but I think being on Netflix, if you have a Netflix account, I think it's worth a watch. I think I might agree with Slattery. I'm not sure if I'd watch it again. I might watch scenes again.
Yeah,
I'd say that much.
Definitely.
So as for a rating, I'll give it a 3.5.
Okay.
And I think I'll give the edge of it, give it the edge with special effects, because I think that's the one standout element. As for favorite scene, I think if you listen to what I said earlier, my favorite scene is the scene where they put the girl in the chamber. She takes the pill and she turns into Elsa. And then
she does.
While this whole fight is happening around, she becomes an Elsa that can't control her own powers. And then it's a very interesting way to, instead of going to a normal shot to show an action scene, you just see it from her point of view inside that chamber as people are being taken outside and being slammed against the glass, and to the point to where knocking some of the ice off the glass.
Yes.
So I've the special effects and the choreography, the fighting, all that stuff came together to be one of the coolest. I'd say one of the coolest action scenes I've seen in a little while. And I think it's worth seeing just for that specific action scene. But there's other things like the machine gun you mentioned, Chris mentioned, I thought was really cool. So some of that, the really cool action, even the end scene, which I won't mention, has got some cool special effects. So I think the special effects budget is really great in this film. So it's definitely a head above some of the stuff. I'll say I think some of the special effects is a little bit better than the Old Guard, which we just watched recently. Yeah.
Or even
that had really bad,
or even Bloodshot, which we were.
Yeah. Because some of the blood effects and other things didn't work, but in this one, some of the gore and the violence and stuff really works. Whether it's people bursting through doors or using their Pikachu powers or bursting.
Yeah. Don't forget the invisible bank robber.
Or invisible bank robber. That's the one special effects. I think it didn't feel like he was as nude as he should have been.
But he's muted.
I think it would have been a greater scene if you kept seeing something like flopping around or knocking against people when he's running.
No.
But maybe that's just me just
It
thinking
was
how
way too cold for that. Way too cold.
Well, that's true. Maybe it was more an innie than an outie.
Oh.
Maybe I should stop while I'm ahead, right?
Might should, yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, so real quick, Mattson Tomlin is also responsible. He's one of the screenwriters for The Batman coming out next year. So.
That intrigues me then, because I think the one thing that really stands out about this would be the story, because it's such a unique story, and I think if you can take that kind of uniqueness and add it to the Batman, that makes me very excited to see that, because I think that's the one way that you could tell a Batman story and put your own spin on it, because we've seen so many iterations of Batman. So yeah, that intrigues me.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm very much like you guys, same camp. I enjoyed this movie. If I were to watch it again, it's going to be one of those backdrop watches, like when you're cooking or cleaning or doing something around the house and you just have it on so you can catch the scenes that you want to stop and watch. Sit down and really pay attention to it again, probably not, but I certainly enjoyed watching it. It's the first time. And it was quite entertaining, quite exciting, the cast is fantastic. And like I said, the young actress, Dominique Fishback, she really, really owns this movie. And congrats to her. I would definitely want to see her do more stuff. I'm going to give this a 3.5 as well. I think that's what I'm going to do. And my favorite scene actually involves her rapping. Jamie Foxx kind of says, "Hey, you got to use your own superpower," and they just talk about it in your own power and identify yourself. And then she tells him that he's a rapper or she's a rapper, and he wants her to do it, and she doesn't right away. But then eventually he says, "Give me a word," and he gives her a word, and she goes off on it, and then give me another word, and then he really starts giving her hard words, and she just nails it, and it's so awesome. And he's just sitting there taking it all in, and at the end he's like, "Ooh." And I just loved his reaction, and I just I like that she finally did that. She was growing as a character, because earlier in the movie we see her think she wants to do it, but is too inhibited or timid to do so. And so it's rewarding to see that scene, to see her show off like that, and to express herself and grow as a character. So and we didn't have to wait till the very end, right? Which is great. So yeah, I'll go with that. Although there are other cool scenes.
Although, did you notice some of the product placement? 'Cause I think there was like a slushy cup, and then there was a scene that took place in Church's Chicken, which I've never seen in any film before. So I was like, wow, I guess
it's
Netflix
a Louisiana thing.
Do what?
Yeah. I think it's a Louisiana thing.
Is it? Okay. Well, I guess so. But I mean, I've been in Church's Chicken before, but I just thought it was very funny. I was like, I wasn't sure if that was like a, like the bigger movies get like Pepsi and Coke, they get Church's Chicken. So I think that's the first time I've ever noticed a Netflix movie where it had like product placement in it. So I guess we might see more of that, because they realize, oh, okay, films aren't going to theaters, so let's throw a Church's Chicken in there.
Throw a Church's Chicken. All right, well, there you go. That's our review for Project Power. Do you think there's going to be a Project Power 2? Slattman says no, shaking that head.
You never know.
It's I don't know.
Project Power Evolution.
I
like Pokemon.
I do think that the story leads to it could be a very interesting sequel, probably something where it's the same concept but not the same characters.
Well, the whole concept with his daughter obviously the more people that take the pill, the more opportunity for that to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Watch the movie to find out what I'm talking about. All right, with that, Christopher, thank you for joining me tonight. This was actually a lot of fun.
It was fun. It was fun watching the movie, and it was a lot of fun talking about it.
There you go.
Yeah, gotta catch all those powers, right?
Yes. Get your
Gotta catch 'em all.
Get your 5
Just,
minutes.
but don't catch too many.
Ah,
catch
or
too
else
many
you'll get little.
powers. Oh,
and you might blow
I'm gonna
up.
have nightmares about that guy's
Oh
neck.
no! All right, let's stop right there and say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.